Hi, this is Cameron Lancaster on a currently unnamed car podcast. I'm here with my friend Austin Stallings. We had a couple things we wanted to get talking about today. Kind of trying to get the podcast started back up for some of the newer members of the 812 Street Crew. Have something kind of fun to listen to when people are either in their shop or driving around and just want something to listen to other than music. So, Austin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Austin Stallings. I'm one of the presidents and founding four of the 812 Street Crew.
Yeah, so this is something that we do want to, kind of get a little bit more routinely put out, for just some extra things for you guys to listen to. As I was discussing a little bit before we started up, we don't really know where this is going to go as far as being posted. Looking at either maybe on YouTube for a little bit before moving to a podcast hosting site, because there's not a lot of free options for that. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there and make sure this is something that you guys can check out if you're interested in it. So I know you had a couple things you were wanting to talk about today, and one of them is kind of your car. You got a 2011 Mustang GT. But before we get into that car specifically, it's like, what kind of got you into cars specifically? Because I never actually heard that side of your story.
Well, I think with most people, it starts out when you're a little kid, getting a little Hot Wheels, a little Matchbox cars, just being a little kid, playing with your toys. And then I think what really got me into it, when I was a little kid, my dad got his hands on a 1970 Mach 1 Mustang. And something that he was rebuilding. And I remember being a little kid, just seeing this rusty old car. It's like, Dad, you bought a piece of junk. What are you doing? Being a little kid, I never really grasped what was going on. And then as the years went on, I'm seeing that car get a little bit more refurbished time after again. And eventually him getting a hands on a 351 Cleveland engine. And he rebuilt that. He painted the whole thing, the original Ford blue that Ford Motors would paint their engines. And, the car got repainted. And just seeing a transformation like that, what that car was going to become, as I got older, I started realizing, hey, this is being able to build something like that, seeing your accomplishments go on, and then at the very end having this final result that you have done yourself, that's something to be very proud of. And I think that's the story with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
They're kids and they see their parents doing it, and then they start seeing the final results of it, and in turn they're thinking, when I get older, I want to buy this kind of car and I want to build it in my image too. And I think that's what really got me into cars, was doing that. Just seeing my dad do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think that's kind of the typical way I think people end up being into cars is some close person in their life kind of guides them into it. They kind of, I don't know if you ever helped out in the garage while you were younger. I'm sure you probably had a few different opportunities to do that.
Yeah.
That's just kind of a typical path to kind of putting new people into car culture. Like myself, it was a little bit different because nobody really in my immediate family was into cars. I kind of got exposed to it through just, like you said, Hot Wheels, just kind of playing around with those. Yeah. And then actually video games lined me up more into it once I started kind of deciding more or less what I was and wasn't interested in life. Around middle school, you kind of realize what you do and don't like.
Yeah. Well, you said opportunities in the garage. I can remember quite a few occasions where I was that kid holding the flashlight for my dad and just getting cussed at for just for being there.
Yeah. Well, it's because kids have those small hands. They can get into places you can't usually get a full-size hand into.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is a perk of having small hands in the garage, if you've got them available. But
it's not so much for that for me anymore.
No, I got two big palms for the small cars that I tend to buy and work on. But yeah, and like I mentioned, you said you've got your Mustang, and I know it's got a little bit of work done to it. So you want to kind of go over what you've done since,
Yeah, well, I'd like to talk about first, how I came to buying this Mustang, how I got my hands on it. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always wanted a Mustang, and I remember being 6 years old, and my little cousins, my big cousins, they weren't so big back then, but they got me doing this thing where every time I saw a Mustang, I would point at it and just say Mustang, and being a little kid, just getting all excited about it. And I did that for a few years, and as a little kid, it's I want a Mustang. I want a Mustang when I grow up, and then in high school, my very first vehicle actually was a 1974 Scottsdale Chevy. And I know what you're thinking. Well, that's not a Mustang. Well, when you're a little kid, you'll take what you can get. Mm-hmm. And anyone knows me knows I'm a fan of older vehicles. And getting my hands on something from the '70s, it was awesome. I kind of wish I still had that truck today, but unfortunately, transmission went out, and my dad saw it better just to get me another car than to try to fix this transmission on this almost 40-year-old vehicle. So he ended up buying me actually a Mustang, but it was a V6 Mustang, a 2001 V6 Mustang in like a navy blue color. Mm-hmm. And I was maybe 17, 18 years old. I was still relatively young. I didn't think oh, V6, it's a V6, it's not a big deal. To me, that car was the best car in the world because I finally got my Mustang. But and I freaking loved that car. I remember being so excited to get off of school just so I could just go out and drive it. Mm-hmm. And just memories like that. It's like, yeah, it wasn't a super fast car. It wasn't a loud car. As far as the functions were concerned, it was just a basic car. But it was a Mustang.
Yeah, and it was yours.
And it was mine. It was my first Mustang.
Right, and that's how most people's first cars are. It's like, typically, not always, but typically there's nothing really to shake a stick at. But it's like that's your first real experience with being on the road and freedom, and you pretty quickly attach yourself to that, whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's just memories like that. It's that feeling that you get, doing stuff like that. It's like, having a car that you're fond of, that can make a really good hobby. So as I got a little bit older, the car was getting older. It was, and I started realizing, it's a V6. I'm starting to get that power hungry. I want that V8. I want that V8 sound.
As typical Mustang owners do. It's always up to the next bigger and better one.
Yeah. Well, I didn't upgrade to a bigger Mustang. I just I was working at Expressway Ford at the time.
Okay.
And there was this 2005 Chevy Silverado that just got traded in. And I remember getting in it and taking it to the car wash, or taking it through the car wash, and I think what drew me to this Silverado is that it had a loud muffler on it, and with me being power hungry, I was also noise hungry too. Like, I want a loud car, I want a loud vehicle, and at the time, I'm driving in it, the truck really did drive really good. Mm-hmm. As far as Chevy Silverados go, because they can get that loose steering and everything. And, but I mean, this truck actually drove really good. Interior was still in good shape and everything. Paint was still pretty good. Had a little bit of clear. It had a those bed covers. Mm-hmm. It had a bed cover on it. Same maroon as the rest of the truck, but the clear coat was coming off. But other than that, just a little bit of rust in that typical Chevy spot.
Where it is on my Tahoe as well. Yeah, they all rust along the door sills.
Yep. But, it was a really good truck. And salesman saw me in it, grinning ear to ear, and he goes, "Man, you look good in that truck." And, throw me those salesman pitches. And he's like, "I can give you a good deal." And I ended up buying the truck. And I had that for a while. That truck served me. It was perfect for me to have that truck when I did. Mm-hmm. Because at the time, I was a volunteer firefighter. And there was probably several times where that truck probably should have been destroyed. I remember, being on scene, because as a volunteer firefighter, you can't always get to the station. Sometimes you run into the scene on your way to the station. Mm-hmm. And I had the blue lights on it and everything. And but there were several times where I was on the highway and it almost get hit by a car. Or there was one time where I drove it, but there was this field that was on fire, and I parked it too close to the fire, and I almost caught it on fire.
Jeez.
But I mean, that truck was a trooper, but lo and behold, Chevy truck, transmission went out. Second time a Chevy truck transmission went out. You know, it was that third gear, didn't want to go into.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, you know, limping home in it and coming in the door, and, you know, I was mad. My truck's pretty much gone. And I told my dad, I go, I'm done with Chevy. I'm going back to Ford. Because I've always been a Ford guy.
Yeah.
But the problem was at that age I couldn't afford a Ford.
Right.
But and you know, I told him what happened, and he said, yeah, you're probably right. You should probably go back to Ford. I told him, I asked if I could borrow his truck, so I go to Expressway Ford to take a look at some F-150s. And I believe this was on a Sunday. But I ended up getting in his truck, and I drove to Expressway Ford looking for this F-150. I didn't find this F-150. I found this beautiful race red 2011 Ford Mustang with the 5.0 in it. And at the time, you know, it had the alloy wheels. The only thing that was done to it that you would probably recognize today would be the tinted windows.
Mm-hmm.
They were tinted when I got it. Other than that, everything else special you see on there was
your own doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around at this car, and, you know, I just couldn't get over how bright red it was. And, you know, it was in good condition. It only had 100,000 miles at the time. And to some people that may seem like a lot, but my Silverado had almost 250,000.
Mm-hmm.
And
because what year was this that the Mustang was? You said
the Mustang was 2011.
Or what year was it? The
Silverado was 2005.
Or but what year did you go pick up the Mustang?
Oh, I picked up the Mustang in 2016.
So that's 5 years, and that's 20,000 miles. I mean, out here, you know,
yeah,
long
you have to drive 14 miles to get anywhere.
That's not the craziest thing in the world. That's not like having 200,000.
And they're highway miles. You know, it's not like he's driving 100,000 miles inside city limits.
Right. It's just idling over, 1,800 RPM, doing 75 down the road.
Yeah. But, you know, it was Sunday, so the dealership was closed. But lucky for me, I had a buddy who was a Ford salesman. He worked there. And I took a picture of it, and then I told him, hey, you work tomorrow? He said, yeah, and I sent him the picture, and I said, I'm really interested in this. Can I come talk to you tomorrow? He said, yeah, and gave me a time. So I show up the next day. He already had it ready for me to go. You know, before he'd even let me look at it, he said, go ahead and hop in the driver's seat. And me and him took it for a little test ride. And Expressway Ford is located next to two highways, Highway 62 and then Bypass Road. Bypass Road connects Highway 62 and 69. So we took it on Bypass Road, and I'm driving it, and I wanted to see what this Coyote engine I'm hearing all about. I wanted to see what it was capable of. So I didn't hammer it down, but I let it steadily accelerate. Because I didn't want to risk doing something to it because I didn't know what the car was capable of. But
and you didn't own it at that point yet.
And I didn't own it at that point. Yeah, and I already had one broken vehicle. I didn't want two.
Yeah.
But we're on Bypass Road, and so I start accelerating, just steadily accelerating. I'm thinking I'm going like 70 miles per hour. I know I'm speeding, but I didn't know how badly I was speeding. Thought I was going 70. Look at the speedometer, I'm going 115.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like it was nothing for the car. It's like, hey, let's go a little bit further. Let's go more. What are you doing? Put your foot down. And I'm like, oh, crap. And the salesman's like, yeah, you probably want to slow it down. But he knew he had me at that point, to get because he knew me very well. He was also a volunteer firefighter.
Okay. Same I guess region
no,
or
different departments.
Okay.
I was Black Township. He was German.
Okay.
But our agencies have worked together before. So we pull it back into the dealership, and I think the Mustang was priced at $16,000. It's a premium package. You got that leather interior, heated seats. Touchscreen radio too. I mean, that was a biggie back then. Oh sweet.
Was it a factory radio?
Yeah, it was called the
Okay.
Shaker 2000.
Huh.
Is the radio. But I mean, even for today's standards, it's still high end. But we pull in, and they want 16 for it, and I said, hey, if you can get this down to 12, I will drive. I will buy it today. He talked to his sales manager, which I was also good buddies with. When I was working at Expressway, they called me Pork Chop. Yeah, that was my nickname, and it carried with me all the way to when I started working at the jail. But the salesman came out, and he goes, "Hey, Pork Chop, I tell you what, if you agree to $12,500, we'll throw in a we'll do a Simonized treatment on it."
Mm-hmm.
And Simonized treatment's like $600, and it's like invisible, like glass coating.
Yeah,
not like glass, but it's like a wax coating over your car.
Yeah, it's somewhere between like what a true ceramic is and just
Yeah.
basically like McGuire's. It's kind of in that middle of there.
And you know, with me previously working at Expressway, I know what Simonized is. I know what it does. I know how much it costs. And so I was like, all right, we got ourselves a deal. It's like, it's good to have friends. But ended up, I didn't drive it home that day because they needed to. Their Simonized was booked up, so they wanted to keep it in there, you know, get it clean, because those the cleanup guys, because that's what I was at Expressway, I was cleanup.
Okay.
They knew me, and they wanted to do me right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came in the next day, and I see this Mustang, and I mean, they have it glowing. And one of the older guys who I worked there with, he goes, "Man, Stallings, you did a good job on this one. You did a good buy on this." And you know, I'm just so excited. I'm just so excited because I've always wanted a Mustang, and now I have a really good Mustang here.
Because you know, your first Mustang being the V6 and everything, you know, nothing really performance side of it. I mean, there was even the performance one of those was the 4.6, which there were some hot variants of, like in the 4 valves and the Terminator, but even just your standard V8 wasn't a whole lot to get. Basically.
It was 310 horsepower was your 4.6, which was the previous engine to the Coyote.
Right. Which is now, you know, base Camaro.
Yeah.
Kind of performance, or even just base Mustang. That's kind of the minimum for any sports car now, short of a Miata.
Yeah. I mean, even the V6 Mustangs are making that today.
Yeah.
But, you know, I went from this 2001 V6 Mustang that made no horsepower. I went to this 2005 Chevy Silverado that was making 285 horsepower. And all of a sudden, I'm an owner of this relatively new, bright, shiny Mustang with 412 horses. I mean, that's like...
It's a jump.
That's like going from flip phone to iPhone 10 or iPhone 11 now. I mean, I don't think I managed to realize, you know, what I had until people were like, "Dude, this is nice. You need to do this. You need to do that."
Mm-hmm.
Well, I bought this Mustang, and, you know, my dad was instantly a fan of it because, you know, it was the same color as his old Mach 1 that he used to have.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so he was instantly a fan of it. And I'm going to note that this thing was bone stock when I first bought it. I already had put the Super 10 Flowmaster exhaust and the wheels on it before my first payment was due. See, I bought this car December 16th of 2016, and my first payment was due January 19th.
Yeah.
I already had the money of new exhaust and new wheels in it before my first payment was due.
Yeah.
And you know, the wheels, what I have on there is those black saline style wheels. I've always been a fan of them, just because they have this unique look to it.
Yeah.
And I don't really know how to explain it other than...
I mean, five spoke wheels typically they'll work on nearly any car. Mm-hmm. But the ones that you got on yours, they're kind of both narrow, but they still kind of have a good look to them. They don't look chintzy, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Like they're sporty, but they also kind of fit the Mustang look, which is why Celine keeps using them, because they're a good looking wheel.
Yeah, and you know, it's with the black wheels, and then you have that race red color, and then you have these windows are tinted so black that you can't see in them. So that mixed with the black tint windows, I think it went together real well. And so far, everybody I've talked to, they said I have not had anybody tell me I should have went with a different kind of wheel or went with chrome wheels. You know, it just really put the Mustang together. And I ran that setup for a while, and I think it may have been a little over a year later. My Uncle Ricky came to visit my dad. My Uncle Ricky, he's from Kansas City. He is a Ford Master Tech, and he builds race engines. And so I mean, like he knows what he's talking about, and
he knows how to get some performance out of him.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And he tells me, it's like, you really want to open that thing up? And I was like, yeah, I like to go fast. He goes, all right, this is what you need. All right, you need to get a 90 millimeter throttle body. You need to get yourself a new intake manifold, and you need to tune it, and that's what you need. I said, okay, sounds easy enough. Throttle body, intake manifold, tune it. That sounds easy. Well, those few mods turned into a whole lot more. Well, how much power you want to make? Well, I want to make around 500. All right, we need more. All right, you need to do this. You need to do that. And, well, what it turned into was, an air raid, cold air intake, the 90 millimeter throttle body. I went with the Boss Drew 2 intake manifold. I went to 47-pound fuel injectors. I got a new timing chain system put in it. I got Stage 2 camshafts by CompCam. Titanium valve springs. I went with the short headers, and I'll explain why I went with the shorts here shortly.
Okay.
I deleted the catalytic converters, put an X pipe on there. New custom made torque converter for my Mustang and its build, and 373 gears in it. And I tell people my build, and almost always what they ask, well, why'd you go with the short? Why didn't you go long tube? And well, a lot of difference between short tube and long tube. This is coming from my uncle. All right, that Ford Mastertech that builds race engines. My build is for low end torque, low end power, and with the setup, the shorty headers was the best route to go for the low end torque, where long tubes is for the long end of the race.
Once you're really kind of just putting revs through it.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice. People give me crap, but I mean everybody who wants a car always has long tubes on it. Very rarely do you see short tube headers on people's cars. And, that's why I kind of, like the uniqueness of that. Like, hey, I got short tubes. And, once I explain why, then people start, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. And, if I could go, I wouldn't change it if I could go back. I'm very satisfied with those shorties.
Because, I haven't looked under, what a Coyote has for exhaust manifolds. I'm sure it's probably just a cast, not a single tube design, but where it all flows into one and then floats out the manifold like most production cars have.
Yeah,
so it's still an upgrade, even though it's not like the typical upgrade.
Yeah, if you look at the factory headers and then you look at these, you can definitely tell a difference. I don't know if you've ever seen like factory Mustang, but they just look like crap. Mm-hmm. Like it's just like four little pipes going into one pipe. It's already going from 4 pipes to 1 pipe before it even leaves the header, and then it goes into the exhaust. With the new headers, it's all individual pipes going into where the cats would have been. Mm-hmm. And then the cats go to, and those Mustangs come factory with an H pipe on it.
And so you change that up for an X pipe.
Well, the X pipe is where the cats were.
Oh, okay.
It goes from that X pipe to the H. So I spent about a year buying all these mods for it. And by the time I was done, I think I was probably $10,000 into it, and didn't even realize it until one day I was bored at work and decided to add up the numbers.
Yeah.
And then the time came and loaded up all the parts, and I drove the Mustang to Kansas City. The plan was, have it done in a couple of weeks, and then I come haul it home. That didn't exactly go as planned because, he is a Ford Mastertech at a major Ford dealership in Kansas City, so it was in the middle of his busy time. It was up there for about 6 months, but when he got started on it, it wasn't long from after he got started on, maybe 3 weeks. And you're talking dropping the engine, the transmission, ripping apart the engine, putting the cams in, time change system, valve springs. Some major work done to it.
Oh yeah. Well, plus you said you got a torque converter. That you got to split the motor and trans, place a torque converter and everything.
And no, he did all this for me for free.
I didn't know he did that. I thought you paid him.
Well, that was why I took it to him instead of like asking Jacob Hall to help me on it. But with my uncle, he was willing to do it for free, and I think he wanted to do it. Like he wanted to be the one to do it. So take it to him. I ended up flying home. First time flying, by the way. that was actually
it's fun.
Yeah, I wish I would have done it more.
Do you go on like a big old commercial plane or kind of a small?
I went in a 737, and I flew to Chicago, and I was in Chicago long enough to get myself a Chicago style pizza. Not as good as New York style, but it was pretty good.
When in Rome.
Yeah. Then I flew from Chicago to Evansville, and my dad picked me up. But after time went by, it was time for me to pick up the Mustang, and I made it up to Kansas City, and there was still some stuff that needed to be done, like put in the gears and everything. And I think he was just finishing up the wirings back in the cam sensors is what he was doing. About 4 hours later, we started up the car for the first time, and I could not explain to you the anxiety I was having, because the whole time, like, he knew how worried I was. He's like, I'm telling you, it's gonna blow up. I'm gonna start this up. It's gonna blow up. And I mean, I freaking love this car. This car's my baby. It's like, I don't want it to blow up. I spent all this time and money. I don't want it to blow up on the first startup.
Right.
And
because then you got nothing to show for it. Then you're back to square one.
Yeah. I mean, he started that up, and the sound that it was making throughout the shop, I mean, just that deep rumble. It was so loud in that shop that, like, everybody in the shop knew my Uncle Ricky. There was people from the front office coming up to see this red Mustang that's been sitting in the shop forever finally running again.
Mm-hmm.
And with all that, and I took a video of the first startup, and I just couldn't believe it. But it's kind of funny because one of my Uncle Ricky's buddies was across the shop. He's that guy who took a steel wrench and started hitting it against a lift, making it sound like the engine was knocking. And my uncle's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "It's coming from over there." And my Uncle Ricky saw who was doing it. The guy's over there laughing, and Uncle Ricky said a few choice words at him, and because I mean it scared me too, to be honest.
Yeah.
But he's looking at it, and he's making sure it's not leaking any oil, because this thing has had like 4 oil changes that day. And, redundancy.
Yeah.
And once he said everything was good, he looked at me and he goes, "I think we're good." And I said, "So this was a success?" He goes, "I think so." And, just that feeling, all that time and money is you're finally going to get your reward. And he looked at me and he smiles. He goes, "I'm going to give it a little bit of gas." We're inside the shop, and he puts his foot on that pedal. I mean, that thing's just roaring in that shop. And it noted this car was switched over to E85, so that E85 smell was just filling up that shop. And everybody was like, "Man, it sounds good, but it stinks." And E85 does stink.
Yeah.
Though. And we turn it off, and we're all happy. It's finally done. Well, as far as the engine, we still had to put the gears in. So we get it up and we put the gears in, and we reconnect the exhaust. We set it down, and he tells me, "Hey, take it for a couple laps around the building." And he said, "Now you be careful, because this is a dealership. If you hit one of the cars, you got to pay for it." And so yeah, I was careful.
Yeah.
Going around. He did have me hit it a couple times, and I will say even now that car still scares me, because you'll be sitting there and you think you're coasting, and then all of a sudden the car just goes nuts. You just go down on the throttle. I still haven't full scented. I have only been doing half sends, and I do a half send.
But when did you get it back? Because I know, like you said, it was 6 months ago. I can't remember exactly when it was you got it back.
Let's see.
It's winter, depending on when you're listening to this. It's winter right now.
November 1st is when I went to go get it.
Okay, so it's been cold, wet, shitty Indiana weather. So
yeah. So I make a couple laps, and then he goes, "I want to take it for a spin." And I'm like, all right. And so he gets in it, and he put his foot down on that car because it screamed, and it has factory suspension, and it squatted that rear end down hard, like quick and hard. Mm-hmm. And I have these Nitto NT05s on the rear end, and on 19x10 rims. So you have this Nitto NT05, which is like a street drag radial. And that tire is a foot wide, and it's a lot of rubber on pavement.
You get traction.
There was no traction. It sat there and spun that small straight down the parking lot. He goes and comes back around, and he's like, "Oh yeah, she's rowdy." And for him to say that, it's like, okay, I have something now. And it was nighttime at this point. We were tired, so we went and got some dinner, and then we went home, went to bed. Woke up the next morning, it's daylight, and, he's just doing making sure his T's are crossed and I's are dotted. And he tells me to, take her for one more spin. So I do. And so I actually took it out on the road. I wanted to make sure all the gears shifted correctly. So I'm going and, all the gears shifted through. It's a 6R80. So the computer's doing the shifting for me. That's how you win races. You don't take time to shift yourself. I remember on the way back, I floored it again. Gave her a good send. I mean, it pulled. I mean, it made my adrenaline spike and everything. And, I come back to dealership and I told my uncle, hey, I did a pull. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. He saw me driving last night. He thought I was a little pussy. And, we put the car back in the shop and we get in his truck and we were going to go do something real quick. Well, we went in the direction that I did my pulling. He goes, boy, you did do a pull, didn't you? And I go, yeah, why? He goes, look. Parking lot where I did a U-turn at before I did my pull, there was a bunch of cops sitting there. He goes, yeah, you're done driving that car here in Kansas City. He goes, you haven't had that car for 5 minutes and you're already getting the cops called on you. It was funny. It was a funny situation, and my dad thought it was hilarious. I hauled it up. I loaded it up and I hauled it home, and by the time when I got home, I was showing it off to everybody, and it's going on the dyno January 20th to finish up the tune that's done to it.
Okay.
From what my uncle says, it might even have a totally different tune in it now. So, what you're seeing is kind of like a prototype tune is what you're seeing right now in the car. It's not even full potential what it's going to be. A lot of my friends, a lot of people in the club, they saw the car, when it was factory, and now they're seeing this build that was done to it. And, they find little stuff that they like to give me crap for, like that's what friends do.
Yeah.
But
because they're not teasing you about it, but they're not your friends.
Yeah, yeah.
Then they're scared.
Yeah. And, but, they do give a lot of respect to the car. And, I named the car Rowdy Red, and there is a story behind that. To know that's actually living up to the potential now, or to its name,
mm-hmm.
It's another great thing to know, because, before I was just calling this factory Mustang Rowdy Red. And granted, it was kind of rambunctious in the factory. I mean, it's making 412 horsepower at the crank. Yeah, it's going to be rowdy. But the story behind the name, it's this really bright red color. And that's usually the first thing people compliment about it is, man, I like that red. That's a really pretty red. I had one guy come up to me at the gas station. He's like, man, sure is red. He said exactly like that. I kid you not. And
that's Mount Vernon for you.
Well, it's actually out here at Bustler's. So
it's
more like that's Posey County for you.
Yeah, yeah.
But and I hadn't had a name for the car yet. And one day I'm going by Wesselman's, and I see one of my buddies there, and I pull by him and I'm talking to him, and he's looking at this thing and he's like, "This thing is rowdy, man," and then I'm like, and then I'm thinking about it. It's like
that kind of rings.
Yeah.
I like that.
I was stuck between Rowdy Red and Red Rowdy. The reason why I didn't go with Red Rowdy, because at the time, Ronda Rousey was at the height of her career. And, it was Ronda Rousey everywhere you're seeing. And Red Rowdy kind of sounds like Rowdy Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't want to make it seem, I'm trying to make this car seem like Ronda Rousey. It's like Rowdy Red, flipping it around. Kind of gives it a better ring to it, a little bit better uniqueness. It doesn't sound like...
It doesn't seem like you're thinking of Ronda Rousey until you say it.
Yeah. And Rowdy Red, it just had this nice ring to it, and it made sense, and just knowing that the car now is, hey, this car is Rowdy Red, that's a good feeling. This Mustang, a lot of people, they like going through several different cars, but I think this car, I want this car. I want Rowdy Red to be that car my grandchildren ask me about. They want to know about that red car sitting in the garage,
mm-hmm.
and I want to be able to tell them this story. It's one of those cars that I do intend to keep with me. Okay. I'm not going to trade it off for a Shelby or trade it for a classic Mach 1, which is my dream car, by the way.
Yeah.
I think I talked about that in another podcast.
I think so, because like I mentioned, we tried to kind of get this going, and then it just kind of never really came to fruition because everybody's busy and it's hard to kind of make things work. But We're going to do our best. But yeah, I remember you telling me about
Yeah.
all the different Mustangs that you're after.
Heaven forbid I blow up that motor. That's just, just build it to be better.
Yeah.
Forced induction. Right now I'm running naturally aspirated. Who's say if it blows up, my uncle told me if it blows up, bring it back, and because he wanted to supercharge it from, once that he saw me putting money into this, he's like, he wanted to supercharge it from the get. He actually wanted to hook a Pro Charger up to that intake manifold, which you can do.
Oh, yeah.
But at the time, I was just ready to get the car back, and I'd have to get forged internals as well. But, if that car stays like that its whole life, I'll be completely happy with that.
I mean, because it's not like 500 horsepower is nothing. I mean, I think people's scale has kind of gone off the rails in the last 10 years or so, because, 10 years ago, 2009 versus 2019, a fast Mustang was 300 horsepower unless you went to a Shelby. Mm-hmm. And now it's like your base Mustang comes with that much horsepower.
Yeah, so your base V8 Mustang today is making 460 at the crank.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely ridiculous.
It's insane.
But yeah, I mean, it's, I think that's a lot of the car guys' dream, is to have a car that they are so fond of that they want to keep it forever. It's like a marriage. You're looking for that girl to spend the rest of your life with. Car guys look for the cars that they want to spend the rest of their life with. I found mine. Kalen found his with the Camaro.
Yeah.
He's going to get buried in that Camaro, buddy.
I believe that.
That Camaro will be his coffin.
Yeah. But it's going to get temperature controlled, every once a week somebody comes down, waxes it,
Yeah.
Takes care of it.
Yeah. Trying to think of someone else who has their dream car. Colson, he has his Blazer that he, me and a couple of other friends that we have, we remember that thing was just a piece of junk. Mm-hmm. And Colson just rebirthed that. I believe he's going to have that Blazer for the rest of his life too. Now that may not be the car that he tells stories about, but it's something he's going to keep with him. Something that he's refurbished to make it look nice. I mean, that old Blazer, he made an old Blazer look modern. Mm-hmm. I mean, you even have today people with their 2019 Chevy Silverado with the section lift. They'll look at that Blazer and be like, man, that's you did something to that. Yeah. That's nice. And Colson's always very humble. He's a very humble person. Yeah. And then he'll just sit there and be like, oh yeah, that's just a little project. But yeah, that's a story already read. Yeah. I kind of touched on growing up and liking Mustangs. There's more to that than just being a kid and being a fan of the Mustangs. A lot of people who know me know that I'm also a big history buff. And I think going with the Mustang also ties into being a Ford guy. I'm a huge history buff. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the name brands I like usually have history behind it. Mm-hmm. Like Colt or Remington. Just those two gun brands right there. A lot of history behind them. But the Ford Motor Company, I've liked the Ford Motor Company a lot of the times because, most of the stuff that you see in car industry today, Ford did it first. Like the assembly line. Let's start from the very beginning. The assembly line. Henry Ford was first to mass produce automobiles. Beforehand, cars were just, built by a couple people, took forever to build them and they weren't reliable.
Yeah, from just start to end, and if, one person was sick that day or whatever, like you hear on a lot of hand-built, non-luxury cars, you kind of hear, built on a Friday, it's going to run like shit.
Yeah, and, and they were stupid expensive.
Yeah.
Henry Ford did a lot of change to that. Ford was the first to mass produce the automobile cheaply, reliably. He was the first pickup truck, Ford Runabout. It was the Ford Mustang that started the pony class. History behind that. Chevy was just killing Ford in sales. Everybody was picking the Impalas and the Chevelles over Ford's cars.
Yeah, then it would be probably the Falcon was still reasonably new. You'd have the Galaxy and and a few other models like that. Fairlane, probably.
And the vice president of Ford Motors, Lee Iacocca, he will be the father of the Mustang. So he saw a market for a four-seater, two-door car. which ultimately resulted in the Mustang being born. And, you know, that's just Ford saying, oh, you're going to be us in these classes? Okay, we're going to make one of our own, and it's going to sell great. And it did. The only problem with the new Mustangs is that they couldn't make enough of them. And, you know, the Ford Mustang, you know, birthed that pony class. And, you know, if it wasn't for the Mustang, you never would have had a Camaro.
No, there'd be no Camaro, Firebird. I mean, you could argue...
Charger, Challenger.
Either the Challenger and like the Cuda really wouldn't have become what they were, or ended up becoming until they ultimately died.
And I mean, a lot of your performance cars today once compared themselves and competed against a Mustang. I mean, you hear someone on the road, like even in the club, you know, you run into someone in a Camaro or a Corvette or a Charger or Subaru. Odds are they're going to tell you a story about how they beat a Mustang. And yeah, you're thinking, oh crap, he beat a Mustang, you know, being a Mustang guy. But at the same time, you're thinking
that's the yardstick.
Yeah, that's the tone that they're trying to beat. You know, I even remember, you know, kids in high school who had cars. It's like, yeah, I beat this Mustang, and it's like, yeah, I mean that Mustang setting the tone, which it has from the very beginning.
Yeah, it's like at least me personally, it's like I think there are like 3 cars that kind of are just benchmarks for, you know, whatever's around and be it something better or worse than either one of them. It's like you got the Mustang, the Porsche 911, and the Corvette. Because, I mean, those have been long-running cars that never come out of production, so they've always been there kind of measure stuff against. So,
well, yeah, like you were saying, like the Mustang's been continuous production for over 50 years. You know, the Camaro has been discontinued, and it came back when the Mustang released a retro style. And you know, I think Chevy's going to discontinue the Camaro again in 2023. And but the Charger and Challenger, you know, they brought back retro styles. You know, when Mustang did their retro style in 2005. But you know, I think it's safe to say that the Hellcat and the Demon series would not have been what it was if it wasn't for the 2013 Shelby GT500. Because that car made 662 horsepower. That was the first affordable. Your average Joe could go out and buy one. Affordable, big power Mustang. That I mean,
really big power anything.
Yeah,
because I mean, even still, 2013, your only other high power car you could buy for, you know, that's the only thing under $100,000. There was the ZR1, but I mean, I think that just got over $100,000, and then anything else in that power category was way up the price.
Yeah, but I mean, even Corvettes have always been up there in the price, and I mean that's.
Oh, you know, the different price points, but
we're talking about average Joe Mustang here, and you know that's just another thing that, you know, Ford introduced it, and then everybody came in behind them, and if we want to go back in history, I mean, the Ford GT40 was the only American car to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and I mean. And they beat Ferrari to do that. And Ferrari to Le Mans back then was like Patriots football today.
Yeah.
I mean, no one thought that Ford was going to beat Ferrari. I mean, that was crazy. That's David and Goliath right there. But yeah, I mean, that's just a little insight on, you know, why did I choose Ford? You know, there's more than just there was a lot more in play than just you know, being exposed to it as a kid. You know, and then you grow, and then you get older, and then, you know, you realize that, hey, you really do like it because, you know, you're interested in these things, and Ford fits that category. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, a lot of your Chevy guys, Dodge guys, if you get in a serious conversation with them, they'll always tell you that they will have respect for Ford. I mean, I think that's like with all car brands. I mean, me and Kalen, he's a Camaro guy, I'm a Mustang guy. I mean, we were born rivals. But, I mean, you get us in a serious setting, yeah, I mean, we got a lot of respect for each other's car. But, you know, it's just wanted to get a little. I mean, I'm sure people were curious. You know, why a Mustang? Why the Ford? And you know, I mean, well, there's your answer.
Yeah, it's more than just Mustangs are fast. Bought one.
Yeah, I didn't get a Mustang because everybody had one. I got one because I've wanted one since I was a kid.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean that's. I think you pretty well summed up your outlook on that and why it makes sense to you. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense for anybody who kind of hears that whole streamline kind of why you chose that. But I know you also, there's a couple other things you want to talk about, primarily being kind of the 812 street crew that we have down here that we've kind of gotten started, which is the local car group, community, kind of whatever you want to really describe it as. I mean, it's it's really kind of been building up its own following through the year. 'Cause, I mean, I think I was at the first official one. From what I understand, there was more prior to that one. But the one that I was told at the parking garage was kind of the first official one they had set up. And I mean, it was like, 13 people there that day?
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the parking garage. The parking garage wasn't our first time.
That wasn't? Okay.
Our first time was at O'Reilly's. It was O'Reilly's on Green River Road. Had a little car meet there, and we ended up cruising to an empty. It used to be a Bilo. Used to be an empty. It was a abandoned Bilo parking lot. But kind of the start of the 812 Street Crew. It's kind of cool to listen to, because I had this Mustang, and then I think maybe a year or two later after I bought it, Kalen bought his Camaro, and Kalen actually got into the car scene before I did. Like he went to meets, and he one day he invited me. He invited me to his car meet, and it was at Washington Square, and I followed him there. We got there, and it's just seeing. It was so cool. It was the first time I saw a Skyline in person.
Yeah.
And you just see all these people in their cars, guys, and remember the car. My Mustang was factored this time. I'm looking at all these guys in their modified Mustangs and their big old chunka cams and their big blowers, and it's.
Just kind of looking, it's like, okay, what does the future hold for me?
It's like, okay, all right, let's see my options. And, that's the thing about car communities. If, people will give you ideas to
absolutely
build. And, I just remember looking around, and I met a lot of cool guys that night, too. And we ended up cruising from Washington Square to the abandoned Walmart parking lot across from Discount Tire. We ended up cruising there and just spending the rest of the night there, and it was cool. And I told Kalen, and I was like, dude, what if we started our own car club? What if we started doing something like this? And he probably said something along the lines of, that's an idea. Well, me and him kind of just shot her, hey, let's start our own car club. All right, yeah. And it was just kind of talk, hey, we can do this in the future, just talk like that. Well, one day I got a wild hair up my rear end, and I was, messing around on this website, and an ad popped up for a website that made business cards. And I was like, that's something that car clubs really don't do, is hand out business cards. And, we wanted to look official from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So I made...
You kind of set that tone, be like, hey,
yeah, so
we're serious.
So I made these business cards, and at the time, me and Kalen didn't really come up with a name. And so I put the crew on the business cards. So these business cards came in, and one day I asked Kalen, hey, you home? And he's like, yeah, I'm home. And I said, all right, can I come over? He's like, yeah. And I come over, and he goes, and I ask him, so are you really serious about us starting a car club of our own? And he said, yeah, I am really serious about this. And I handed him the business cards. I like, let's start handing these out. And, he's, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did it. These are so awesome. And I was like, yeah, well, I didn't want to spoil the surprise, so, I just came up with the name The Crew. He goes, I like that name, but, I think that it's a pretty general name. We should come up with something a little bit more unique. And he's like, how about The Crew 812? And I'm like, all right, yeah. So I think that day he made the Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And it was The Crew, and then it was just in parentheses off to the side 812. We started off with our local car friends, just getting people in and everything. And we were handing out these business cards. Well, I think Kalen reached out to, either Noah Smith or Logan Carrico. I can't remember who he reached out to or who got in contact with him or how they even got in contact. I don't know. But he told me one day, hey, there's a car meet at O'Reilly's on the North Green River. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I go out there, and I parked my car right in front of this really nice-looking black Mustang that just so happened to be owned by Christian Canfield. And I was looking at it, I was like, I was a fan of his car the minute I laid eyes on it. And then when he started it up the first time, I was like, I mean, it was awesome. Mm-hmm. But that's how me and Christian met, was that night. And he was telling me his build, what he had planned for it, which was similar to what I did too. We're walking around, and I'm like, this is actually a pretty nice meet. You got a good group of people here. And he's like, yeah, man, it's our first meet. And I'm like, this is us? He was like, yeah, man. And I'm like, holy crap. And because, like, it just happened so fast, like, we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And when he told me the whole thing, like, because Logan Carrico and Noah Smith, they had this, they had a group of friends who were into cars too, and we decided to do kind of like a merger deal. They had a group of friends, and we had the quote unquote club.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was at we cruised to that abandoned parking lot at Bilo on 41. And, we're all kind of grouped around. We're talking, and we're like, we should come up with a new name for it. Everybody's throwing out different names, and then I can't remember if I think it was me who said it. Don't quote me on that though. But I was like, well, how about 812 Street Crew Evansville chapter? And everybody fell in love with it. And I think that we all agreed to name the club 812 Street Crew. 812 Street Crew was born.
Yeah.
There we are. And from that night, we were talking about getting apparel and everything, and that actually happened. People getting apparel, people putting decals on their cars. I think most of the modified cars you'll see in Evansville have our logo on it. And it started off. That night we went from like 12 to 36 people.
Yeah. It was definitely humble beginnings, because I remember I wasn't at that one, or else I would have remembered that. But the first one I went to was the first parking garage meet.
Uh-huh.
I remember the way I found it was just get on Facebook. It's like, 'cause I was bored, because I'm not from here originally, so I don't know where people go to hang out with cars and stuff. And I was just bored. I was like looking around, like, are there car clubs in Evansville? Like on Facebook, see what was going on. I think I saw Caleb like talking shit to somebody on Facebook. I was like, we're having this meeting at this point. Go here, and I was like, okay, I'll go there and just kind of see what happens. It's real kind of grassroots stuff. Just kind of get stuff going, and and grow it from there.
And then the infrastructure. It was obvious that me and Kalen, and then Noah Smith and Logan Carrico, the founding four, right there. We were all given the title president. It was only appropriate because we were the founding four. And then, over time, this was at the beginning of winter, too. So, the car scene was slow. But still, we were at 30. And then I remember us hitting 50. And, me and Kalen, we were talking to each other like, oh, man, look, we're getting 50. We're at 50, man. And then we hit 100. And I think Kalen made a special post for 100. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, we hit 100 members. Oh, my gosh. But I remember it jumped when the warm season came. All of a sudden, our meets there was the pretty long span there where we were having 200 cars every meet.
Yeah, because I remember the first meet that was like blew up, where there were cars everywhere. People bringing cars in on trailers, filling up the side lot. It was bonkers.
And then these all of a sudden, people are hearing about us. They're coming, and then numbers, and then the numbers just kept going up and up and up, and 100 or 50 turned into 100, 100 turned to 200, 200 to 300, and I think the last time we did a podcast we were at like 330 something.
Yeah.
And let you know where we're at now. I think we were at, as of this morning, 1,170 members, which makes us the largest car club and car group in this tri-state area. But in the beginning, we never thought that we would have gotten where we were as fast as we did. And I remember telling Kalen, it's like, dude, it's like, you're kind of numb. It's like, you don't know what to think of it. It's all of a sudden you're blowing up. It's blown up, and you don't know what to do with it. And we, we're doing these car meets, and at the time, the car scene in Evansville was not really organized. It was kind of like an outlaw ordeal. Like, you can go hang out, you can go meet up at this parking lot. And you can, and best bet is to sit there until you're kicked out.
Yeah.
Nobody really had permission to be anywhere. It was tolerated in Evansville at the time. The car scene was tolerated. You're at the mercy of the landowners. And I believe that 812 Street Crew kind of gave the car community of Evansville, a nice little home. A nice little safe spot for them to come and enjoy their little car stuff. That's what the car meet is. Yeah, you hear people, well, all 812 Street Crew does is they park in a parking lot. Well, yeah, because we don't want to abuse. We don't want to destroy what we have built. We park in a year ago, 2 years ago. If you got a bunch of cars parked in a parking lot, cops will get called. People get warning for trespassing. That's not the thing with us anymore. That's not the thing. That 812 got rid of that because we got permission. We have inside contacts to these businesses, and we get their permission to use their parking lots. So it's a place where you can go and do your thing, and not be looking over your shoulder or listening to scanners.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have forgotten how things used to be. The story of the poor man becoming rich and then forgetting where he came from. Now, it's not a problem by any means, but with being one of the leaders of the club, it's something that I'm looking at. It's something that pops up to me. Your average member might not see it, but the guys running the stuff does, and we're always thinking different ways to entertain people, but it's kind of a touchy situation. We are in the works of. I'm not going to do any spoilers, but we are.
Well, of course, I wouldn't ask you to either.
Well, we are in the works of something that will, something that no other car club has. Well, no other car club has done. As a lot of you may know, we did a car show back in the summer that was really successful.
Yeah, because it was what, like 150, or was it more cars?
There was a lot. It was probably closer to 300 cars. I mean, we had both lots filled, and I think we were charging $10 to register your car for judging.
Yeah, it was something pretty easy. I mean, I brought mine in.
And I mean, you have these car clubs like Pony Express, Mustang Mafia. I think there was some Mopar club that came too. I mean, these are guys that have been doing it forever, but they always kept their numbers small, and that's the difference between us and them. We don't charge to be a member; they do. That's probably why our numbers are so big, because we're not going to make you pay to do what you love to do.
Right.
But these guys, I mean, they were telling. I remember them telling us, we've been going to car shows that people have been doing it for over a decade, and it has not been as organized as ours was. And we started planning ours like maybe 6 months beforehand. And I think and another thing that was really liked was our homemade trophies. We took trophies and we made them out of car parts and handed them out. I have this picture of this guy who just picked up his trophy. He was looking at the camera and he just had this biggest smile on his face. And that was probably the best feeling, that knowing that you made somebody's day like that, and knowing that they're going to treasure that trophy forever. Because this isn't a trophy that you can just go buy at the store. You're never going to see a trophy like that again unless you make it yourself.
Right, because I remember, there were a few different styles. Like some are made out of like pistons and rods, and some of them were like crankshafts and bits of gear. And so one of the things, like, that's going to last forever. It's just metal. Yeah. It's all the steel and iron and everything.
Camshafts, rotors, and
yeah.
And a little funny story here. I learned how to weld on those trophies. But when me and 812 Street Crew first became a thing, and me, Kaylin, Noah, Logan, all the other committee members, when we started doing this, we didn't think that we would be doing a car show within a year. We didn't think that we would break 1,000 members just over our 1 year birthday. We didn't think that we'd be sponsored by these companies, and we didn't think that we'd be as popular as we were. Even today, we look at it and it's humbling. It's like 1-2 years ago, you were just this guy, just desperate to find something going on with the car meet, to knowing that car guy's knowing that, hey, every Saturday night there's a place for you to go to. And it's something I just didn't think that it would be fast. Me and Kaylin always talk to each other like, we'll eventually get there. And then Fate was like, hey, well, you're already there. Here it is. Deal with it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Well, yeah, it's kind of surprising because, that was one of the things, because I didn't really find out about this until I was almost done with college. I've been down here for 3 or 4 years, and you'd see nice cars around every once in a while, but it was
They didn't have a home.
Nobody ever talked about it. Like, oh yeah, you can go here and kind of find out about this. Or you can go talk to these guys. It was all pretty much, well, you go buy something on your own and do it on your own. That's kind of what you had as an option. And then, this guy brought it up. So it's very, and I think a lot of people felt that way. Like, kind of like, well, I don't know where to go. I like this stuff, but I don't know what to do it with or who to talk to or anything because there's no localized hub for that, which this has kind of filled that. Because, I mean, like you said, 1,100 or so people on the Facebook page. 2 years ago, I would have never guessed there were that many people in the Tri-City even cared.
Yeah. And that's just Evansville, too.
Yeah.
And, but, as far as the future of 812, just me personally now, the club, I don't know if the club has this aspirations or not, or the other leaders, but this is me personally. Like, I want to see in the future, I would love to see a custom shop in Evansville, like a real custom shop. Not like a place that you can go to change your oil and buy a cold air intake while you're at it. Like a real custom shop with the 812 banner on it. I would like to have a new drag strip or the Chandler drag strip be improved. I would like to see Posey County get a drag strip. I mean, that would bring a lot of money. Either Chandler get refurbished or a new one gets built. The car scene, the car scene now has a home where they can go to and hang out with other car guys, but they don't have a home to go and do what their cars were built to do, except for the local streets, which is illegal.
Right.
So I think that a lot of the tension you see around the car community would be alleviated with a working track.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things. Like with my car, like I bought a Miata to learn to do autocross and go do track days and stuff like that. And just in this area, from what I understand, there's one autocross in Evansville a year. Late in the year, so it gets rained out, so it never really happens.
Yep.
Or there's a couple up in Vincennes during the summer. Yeah. Other than that, there's really nothing to do.
The Chandler drag strip is down right now. That means the closest drag strip is in Paducah, Paducah, Kentucky, which is almost 2 hours away, I think. Maybe
something like that. Yeah, depending on how you get there.
So yeah, I mean, I can definitely tell. These guys commenting on the posts. It's on our page. Like, all we do is park in parking lots. Well, I mean, we're working on
It's hard to legally have,
Yeah, I mean, we're
60 to 120 poles on the the expressway.
We're working on more stuff. It's just, it's just at this point, it's just everything moves at business pace now.
Yeah.
Because this is not just your wing it kind of car club anymore. I mean, we work things like a business. We have guys who are designated to go out and talk to business guys. And everybody in committee has their own job to do. But in the future, I would like to see, like I said, the custom shop, the drag, a track. I would like to see a big boom in the in the Evansville car community, to where it can get back to the way it used to be, where a group of cars can just drive down the road, and nobody calls the cops on them over exaggerating, saying that they're racing, because I want it to be such a big deal that everybody wants to have a performance car. I want to see everybody. I want to drive down the road, and I want to be able to see, to just pass a whole bunch. I just want to pass performance cars and just make it sort of like a common thing. It's like it's no big deal to see a souped up Corvette driving down the road, or this Subaru with a big turbo in it, or Mustang with big fat drags on the back. But since 812 started, I am seeing more performance cars out now. Now maybe it's just I'm just noticing them now. Maybe not. Maybe people are actually going out and buying them. I do know of several cases where people went out and bought one after learning about us. But just another special thing is that not only am I seeing these performance cars, I'm seeing our banner on it too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's real humbling. It's like you just wanted to do this thing that everybody's going to enjoy, and what you did is that you are now promoting a lifestyle for people. And with promoting that lifestyle, that's also getting a hold of them before they even have a performance car. Like I said, I started off really with the Mustang, the V6 Mustang, back in high school, because I only had that 74 Scottsdale for like 6 months.
Yeah.
But that Mustang, that was nothing that was nothing special. It was, as far as the functions were concerned, it was a basic car. But where am I at now? I'm at a whole different level now, because everybody has to start somewhere, and that's something I'd like the car people to know, that if they see a V6 car or something not so special in one of our parking lots, it's just remember that everybody started somewhere. You see these high school kids come to our lot with their. I'm just gonna use V6 Mustang as an example because that's all that I'm thinking about right now. Yeah, right now they have a V6 Mustang, but who's to say 3 years from now they're not rolling up in a freaking hot rod Shelby or a brand new Camaro SS or even a Corvette? I mean, Don't judge them on what they currently have. Inspire them to want to do something better, want to build something better, want to buy something better. Because if that didn't exist, the car scene wouldn't be anything. Nobody'd want to go out and buy something special other than the fact that, hey, that looks good, I think I'll buy it. The car scene is much more than that. You buy it, you get ideas from your fellow car guys. Some people even build to compete with each other. I mean, that's pretty much the point of me and Christian Canfield at this point. I mean, we got a race set for spring, and I just find it funny. I get a boss or two and take manifold, and then all of a sudden one pops up on his, and it's just a little little friendly rivalry between one another, and that's what it's about. Just having fun and building it.
Yeah, because and like you were saying, it's like everybody starts somewhere. It's like whenever I first got involved with this, I had two cars. I had my Tahoe, which I drove here today, and I had my old Lincoln. Which, if you looked at both those things parked together, just look at ordinary traffic, but then it's like, that's not all that I am interested in, it's just those two cars. It's like, I'll talk about any kind of car you want to talk about. That's just what I had at the time. And it's like, now I've sold a Lincoln, it's like, got a Miata, and it's like, that's going through its own renovation, restoration, whatever you want to call it, get mods done to it and everything, but, and eventually something else is going to pop up, and you try something else.
Yeah, I'm just going to go down a couple of the committee members. All right, you have me. I had that V6 Mustang. Now I have this modified 2011 Mustang with the Coyote engine. That's a big difference. Let's go to Kalen. He had this white Chevy Tahoe that we called Bertha. Now he has a Subaru WRX and he has a Camaro SS. That's where he started, but he started with that Tahoe. Let's look at Patrick Gerton. I don't even know what that red wagon was of his.
That was a Forester.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. It was. I think it was newer than the one that he bought, but
it was like base model though, wasn't it? Nothing special.
Yeah, except for the subs.
Yeah, well, but now he has the Forester that he wanted, and I will tell you from experience that thing got some torque. Like I have never felt lateral G's like that. Excuse me, but Austin Coulson with his Blazer. He gets that Blazer. It was a rust bucket. Mm-hmm. But now it's a head turner. He started off with that rusty Blazer. Now he's a head turner, and then he also has this beautiful red Jeep.
Yeah,
and I mean I mean, there are people who do. There are Jeepers in the Evansville Jeepers who envy him for that Jeep.
It's sharp. Like I've seen it like just. That one time I was over in his garage and kind of got to look it over more, like in depth. It's like this thing is solid.
It is sexy, and he's got a V8 in it, and now he just recently bought a Corvette.
Yeah,
it's a really sharp Corvette too.
He's making moves. I'm jealous.
Yeah, he's making moves, but he started out that rusty Blazer.
Or even just like 3 weeks ago. Whenever he had his beater, he had this little white Escort. It's like if you saw this him driving down the road in a little Escort, it's like you wouldn't think, oh, that kid's going to buy a Corvette in 3 weeks.
Yeah. yeah. I never thought of it like that. Who else? Jacob Wallace. He had this, he has this white Lincoln.
Mine.
No, that was yours.
Yeah, that was mine.
But, this Lincoln, it's nothing to be special. It's a good daily, and it's a good daily car. It does have that 4.6 V8 in it.
Quad cam.
But
I know it well.
But it's not. It's not going to be a head turner or anything.
No,
He just bought his dream car. Not only did he buy his dream car, it's a Terminator.
Yeah.
It is a Mustang Terminator. That is a Mustang legend. And he has that now. I thought it would be a while before I saw a Terminator in the club.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought it home, and I cannot help but feel happy for him, because I know that feeling of getting your dream car. And it's stuff like that I live for, is people getting a hold of what they want. And I remember Jacob before, but when he just had that normal Cobra,
mm-hmm.
It was just Terminator this, Terminator that. It's like, and he like Kalen gets going about his Camaro, and Jacob pop. I bet a Terminator would destroy it. And, well, lo and behold, here comes Jacob with the Terminator.
Yeah,
and it's good for you, man. And but yeah, I mean, you look at everybody, and if you look at the Facebook page, you'll see somebody on there talking crap like, "Oh, look at this basic car," and it's like, well, buddy, where were you? Where were you before you came into the car scene? What were you driving? I know Daddy didn't give you a Corvette from the get-go. Everybody started somewhere. Everybody had a beater at one point.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's usually people's best stories come from other beaters.
Yeah. But if you discourage these people before they even get into it, the car scene is going to die.
Oh, yeah.
And life's going to be boring.
Yeah.
So
You'll take them knitting.
And I think 812 Street Crew put a really big impact in improving the situation there. Like, it's, someone might roll in a Kia Sorento, and you get talking to them. It's like, well, what is it you're wanting? And they'll be like, well, I want this 1994 Mustang Cobra. That's my car that I want. And that's the car I eventually want to get. And you get them being a part of this, now that they've seen it, they want to move forward in getting that car, so they can actually participate and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's also kind of not necessarily fear, but kind of like, well, if they don't know everything there is to know about cars, like how to work on them and do all this stuff, it's like, do I want to get this? Say it's an older car like a '94 Mustang. They want to invest that time, money, and all that into it. But if you got this huge resource to kind of pull on, if you have questions or anything, it's a lot less of a mountain to hurdle. Mm-hmm. If that's what you want, and you have somebody to ask questions to, you feel more confident. You just pull the trigger and having what you want versus getting by without it.
Yeah, I mean, last night we had I'm a assistant wrestling coach for the Mount Vernon wrestling team. One of my wrestlers has this, I think it's a 2006 or 7 Mustang. And this particular Mustang I have known since I was a sophomore in high school, because I knew the previous owner. Mm-hmm. This car's name was Stacy. When I knew Stacy was was in the club, I was like, "Oh, the legend lives!" Because honestly, I didn't know what happened to that car until I started putting 2 and 2 together. But he shows up last night, and the car had a different thought. It had a really top-notch throttle body. It was the one with the 2 butterfly flaps on it. Mm-hmm. It had a cold air intake. Had a little bit of suspension work and exhaust. But he's heard me talk about my build. He wanted to build his car, like I've built mine. And he goes, "Hey, Coach Stallings, what do I need to do to get started?" And I called Jacob Hall over, and Jacob Hall probably spent a good hour just giving him ideas and talking to him. And telling him, for starters, if you don't want to get too crazy, this is what you need to do. And I think we get laid out an exhaust system and a better intake manifold. And, of course, new tires to be able to grip. And I honestly believe that, here in a few months, he's going to start showing me these parts that he's bought. And that's really what it's about. Mm-hmm. That's what car guys do. We give each other crap from time to time, but it's all in good fun. But we really want to see each other build and grow and get to the new level. I mean, nobody's going to buy a Mustang and suddenly be on Todd Guthrie's level or Ryan Hargett's level.
Right.
No, you're not going to be putting 1,000 horsepower out in the first few years of you starting modifying cars. I mean, you're going to start somewhere. If you do that, I'm not going to get behind the wheel because it's probably not going to be done right. You need to grow and learn, and even if it is put together right, I'm not going to trust someone who went from 300 horsepower to 1,000 horsepower.
No.
No, I mean...
That's a 300% plus increase.
Yeah, I mean, it's... At least not with... There would have to be criteria that I'd have to... For me to do that, but
no, I mean, it gives you... Like I said, like it kind of makes it a little bit less scary for newcomers kind of into that. It's like, it gives you it gives you the steps instead of having to figure out what the steps are. You see the steps, you still go through them all, but you have them laid out in front of you instead of going through every single mistake in the book to figure out where you're supposed to be going.
Yeah. You know, I am very excited for the future of 812 Street Crew. I think that things will be a lot better as time goes on, and you know, I would like to see the car scene in Evansville just grow substantially. One thing, I don't know how the club feels about this, so I'm just going to say this, you know, just on my own opinion. You know, I really don't want 812 Street Crew being responsible for everything. Mm-hmm. You know, if another car group wants to organize a meet, as long as it's not the same night as us, I'll go to it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's,
you know, cars and coffee. You know, that's something that everybody gets together for. I believe that's this next Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, next one I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, assuming that they have it.
Well, they said rain, snow, whatever, they're still going to have it.
Okay.
But you know, if another say ESS decides to pop back up again, they've been quiet for quite a while, and if they decide to pop back up, they usually had their meets Friday nights at 7. If they start popping up wanting to have more meets, I'd go to it. If another car club, I can't even think of one right now.
I mean, you could just even make one up, say Evansville Subaru owners, you know, just
if Evansville Subaru owners was having like an open car show, I'd go to it.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, it's kind of biased for me saying this, but if Mustang Mafia was going to host, yeah, I'm going to go to it. I'm a Mustang guy.
Yeah.
I think one guy even talked about wanting to start a club to rival the Mustang Mafia called the Camaro Cartel, which I know he started a group. But I don't think he ever made anything of it from that, and I really hated to see that because that could have been cool. That could have been a big rivalry as Wrights in modern day, right there.
Just have them across the street from each other. Just see who counts for the cars.
Yeah. That would make a great poster. Like I'd probably have that as a poster for one of 812 Street Crew's meets. It's like
be like, hey, this Saturday, go to these.
Yeah, it's like hashtag Team Mustang, hashtag Team Camaro. Which one are you on, Evansville? And you know, I don't want it to just be 812 Street Crew, but at the same time, you know, I want
you'd rather it than nothing.
Share the well.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, not like in a socialist way, but like a Robin Hood way.
You kind of can, like, you know, because if we're the biggest one in the tri-state as right now, if you kind of bring people up out of the weeds and they want to also do their own stuff, you know, in different times and whatever. Absolutely, just kind of, you know, a rising tide raises all boats.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it kind of is one of those things.
Yeah. But, you know, I don't want 812 Street Crew to, you know, be responsible for everything, but I definitely want them to be in the lead of everything.
Well, yeah.
Because as of right now, you know, we are the biggest and we are the most active. You know, even in the wintertime, we're doing car stuff. Now, granted, you know, the attendance may not be as great, but we're still doing it. Warm weather comes back around, it's going to blow up again. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody's been anxious to get out and going, so they come out and get going. I mean, last night's car meet was actually pretty big for being in the end of December.
Because it was 62 degrees versus
and
then 3 weeks ago it was like 20.
Yeah, and then the weekend before that there was just as many cars out, 50-something cars. You know,
and that's for winter. That's when people are typically building their cars. You know,
yeah.
Like mine. I mean, it's on jack stands in my garage right now while I do the rust repair on it. Like, it's not going to show up to the meets until that's all done and ready to go, and probably not until the weather dries out a little bit more, honestly. But I still show up to the meets. You know, I bring my Tahoe out there, park in, you know, daily row, and just have a good time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the good time is what we're striving for. But, you know, 812 Street Crew is, I think we're here to stay. No one's going to change that. there will be obstacles in the future. There's always obstacles in the future. Stuff that we haven't foreseen and stuff that we predict is going to happen. Every now and then you get someone popping up, anti-812 Street Crew, and they make this own little page, and it's gone within a couple months. And here we are. I'm not trying to sound cocky there, but, if there's a problem that someone has, instead of trying to be a keyboard warrior about it, I'd like,
discuss it.
Nothing's going to change by you going on the page because your feelings are hurt and you want to hurt other people's feelings. That's just going to destroy stuff. If you actually want to see a change, then do it the right way. And we've done stuff like that before. And with the car show, that car show alone should have proved that we were willing to do more than just car meets.
It was a charity car show.
Yeah, it was a charity.
It wasn't just a car show. It was also for charity.
Yeah, we made zero money on that. We gave all the money that was made to the Highlander Challenger League, and that was all. I think it was almost all in all $2,000, right around that range maybe. But for a first time doing anything like that, it was really successful. And the Dream Car Museum, I hate that it's closing, but we do have another location that is to be announced.
Okay.
And there will be a lot more than just car shows going on at this location. So stay tuned.
Yeah, look forward to more information.
Yeah, well, as time gets closer, we'll talk more about that. I definitely want to thank the Mr. Larry Bennett and the Dream Car Museum staff for helping us with letting us do that there. And because I thought it was appropriate. Car show. We're a better place to have it than a car museum.
Yeah, it made sense. Well, no, because is it? I know that's one is closing down, but is the museum moving somewhere?
No,
I
think Mr. Bennett is selling everything, all the cars and everything.
Yeah.
Which I kind of hate because he has the Dodge Charger from the first Fast and the Furious, the black one, the one that hit the semi. Has it all smashed up in his museum.
Yeah.
And I got to look at it. That was freaking cool.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I'd like to take out of there.
Yeah. It was kind of strange, like, with that museum alone, like, over the last, like, year or the year leading up to hearing that it was closing, like, at the start of that year, it seemed like it was doing all right. Like, both buildings filled. There was that little side garage where there were cars, like, getting worked on there. I figured this thing's just going to keep growing because it seemed like it was doing well enough, but evidently it didn't.
Yeah, and, that's just the world of business, especially the
Museum business.
Museum, car dealership business.
Yeah.
Because remember that before it was Dream Car Museum, it was Bennett Motors. Bennett Motors went out of business, but he kept the Dream Car Museum going. And eventually that shut down, and it will shut down, unfortunately. And but I think that his business in Kentucky, his main campus, will still be open. I've had the pleasure of actually meeting him in person and talking to him, and he gave us a personal tour of his museum and like behind the scenes and everything, and just gave us in-depth stories about everything in there. And you could tell that the guy was passionate about it, especially his gas pumps.
Yeah.
Those gas pumps
are worth money.
Yeah. But you can tell that he loves it. It's just he was willing. He was excited to share that with us, and it just goes into doing what you love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And another thing I want to point out is I'd like to see the relationship between the car community and the local police get a little bit better than what it is. Because right now, because the car scene before us was the Wild West. Especially in the beginning, we'd be parking somewhere and a police officer would pull up and treat us like as if that we had a scene from Fast and the Furious going. And with me being in the law enforcement area myself, being a correctionals officer, I'm with the police all the time. I know what they deal with, but I feel like that there could be a better job of seeing exactly what's going on before you do so. That being said, we have had our fair share of police just showing up just to check our cars out. And that's the coolest thing right there.
Oh, yeah.
You car pulls up, a sheriff or EPD car pulls up, and you think, oh crap, here we go. We're going to try to tell us to leave or tell us to quit racing when we're just parked, and then they get out the car. So who has the fastest car? And we're like, and everybody's like, oh, I do. And, they're going around looking under the hoods, and, they're talking about, because
they're people too.
They got the same interests.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a couple of police officers that are doing the same thing we do.
Well, I think I don't know what his name is, but I've seen him once before. Like he's got a black pro-charged CTSV coupe somewhere here in town or in this area.
Yeah.
And he's a cop.
Yeah.
And it's like you wouldn't think cop on the side of the road, speed radaring people. Oh yeah, he's got a pro-charged CTSV.
Yeah.
You wouldn't make that connection.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a jail officer for the Posey County Sheriff's Office. I helped start this whole shindig. It's, people probably wouldn't have thought that. Especially with me being aspirations of being a police officer. You just be surprised on who's really into it. And I mean, I especially at Cars and Coffee, every now and then you have this, a woman roll up. It's real like model type woman. Like she's doing a photo shoot with the car type girl. And you ask her about the car, and she's like, "Yeah, I did all this myself." It's like, what? What? And so I mean, that just just never assume.
It's easy to kind of just make stereotypes and think oh yeah, this is what this person does. Like thinking cops, they hate all car enthusiasts, or think that some people can't work on cars because they're interested in other stuff. And it's like if you kind of just get a little bit past that, it's like everybody kind of has the same interests, and if you can kind of just take it easy and take a step back, it all mellows out.
Yeah, and everybody knows how bad Hondas get a bad rap. Everybody likes to talk crap about Hondas, but then lo and behold, one pulls up that has a turbo on it bigger than my head. It's like, yeah, you go ahead and talk crap. I'm not going to be the one to get gapped by this.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot. It's kind of crazy. It's like you always have your stereotypical Hondas are like junky little cars that people just beat the crap out of. But then it's you see some of them are really set up, solid little cars, like that red CRX that always shows up to them. The K-Swap, I think is slick.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And
there's just so many people doing exceptionally nice things with cars that people stereotypically do really junky stuff with.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it's just Cars and Coffee, where everybody kind of gets together. It's nice talking to someone, and they feel and you bring up the 812 Street Crew, and they tell you that you're doing it right. They tell you that the club is going in the right path, that they're doing that they are what the car scene used to be. And the people that give 812 Street Crew a bad rap 9 times out of 10 are the reason the old car scene failed. And
it's like a relationship. It can't always be take. You got to give. You can't always be taken out of it. If you're just tearing up the streets all the time, it's going to get shut down. It's never going to work out. You got to get back. Have peaceful, organized meets in parking lots. Where it's sanctioned, like you said, all of them are sanctioned by the businesses that let us be there, and giving back to the community, having a charity car show. It's you gotta give as well as take. So, and it's finding that balance is key.
Yeah. Just like with the car show, it's well, we're doing 812 all year's doing this. Once a year, it's nice to do something for someone else, especially for the Highlander Challenger League. They're a baseball league for children with special needs. I think their motto is baseball is for everyone.
Yeah,
that's correct. And I think that kind of inspired us. Cars are for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not just cars. Let me correct myself. Not just cars, but cars, trucks, Jeeps, motorcycles.
Yeah, or even just pick a hobby. I mean, anything. It's you shouldn't be told you can't really partake in your hobby.
Yeah, I mean.
So it's and our outlet is cars. At the meet last night, it's one of the kids I met was just a 19-year-old transfer student from Germany. Mm-hmm. He's just a super nice kid. Just talk to him about different cars, and it's and he's just here at this little meet in Evansville, Indiana.
Yeah, from Germany?
Yeah.
He's got the Autobahn and the Nürburgring ring.
Well, yeah, he does. He actually, I was talking to somebody from Stuttgart, which is where Porsche and Mercedes and all them they're housed out of. So it's like he's no shortage of nice cars out there where he's from. But
Oh yeah.
but then he comes out here and he's like looking at all this stuff, and it's just like it's a whole new world for him. Like, it's one of the things I was chatting up with him. He'd never seen a Rabbit pickup before. I guess they never got those over there. So he never knew that existed, and I showed him that. It's like, comes to America to learn about German cars.
Yeah. Well, think about this. Like BMW and Porsche, that to in Germany would be like Ford and Chevy.
Yeah,
here
just
in America.
everyday cars.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, who's to say that he's not jaw dropping over the Mustangs over here?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody. I think 2019. I think it was 16, 18, 19. The Ford Mustang was the best-selling sports car in all the world. So, I mean, for him to see, like, real Mustangs in America, not that right-hand wheel drive bullcrap. But him to see,
Yeah, it's just different. I mean, it'd be like if any one of us went over to, overseas and got to see just the way they do things. It'd be just different. It'd be cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's...
And not have the police come in and card him and be like, you're from Germany, and, like, just get treated like shit because, like, he's not a citizen.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is he at this place with all these cars that are doing all this kind of shit? And it's like, that's not the case. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
It worked out good for him.
Yeah, I mean, even on our sanctioned properties, when the police do show up, it's usually because it's either a noise complaint or someone was racing somewhere and they just came to us for some reason.
Well, it's an easier target. People aren't moving in a group versus one person scooting around back roads.
Yeah, when in reality, it's like it's not us. Whatever they do away from us is their business. You're free to hang out, park your car, hang out, and just sit and watch us. You're free to do that, and you'll see that we're not the Fast and the Furious. We're not blocking off roads to do a drag race or doing donuts or, you see on the internet these car meets like in Florida or Texas. The whole group will just block off a 4-way intersection and do donuts. And I even seen one where it got so bad that the kids at the car meet made the cops retreat. And then there was another time that they got a chopper involved and they were literally shooting at the chopper with fireworks.
Jeez.
We're not doing that.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
I better not see that. Not in 812's world.
No, that'll get shut down pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. So I will personally shut that down.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good kind of summation of what has been 812 up to this point, kind of where it's came from, why it started, and where it's been up to now, and like where we're wanting to take it, kind of, and see where that goes. I mean, and you're certainly always open to questions, like you said, with people if they have concerns. Like, you're certainly open to questions. Kind of ask, how do you get involved and partake in the events aside from
if you want to see a change in the 812 Street Crew, message me. Feel free to message me.
Yeah, and not even negative stuff, but just like curiosity, just like hey, if I want to come to this meet with this car, if it's nothing special, it's like, can I still come out and park there? It's like, absolutely. But it's like basic questions like that. It's like, ask anybody it meets. Like, me, I'm not even officially part of like the committee or anything, but it's like, I'm still always happy to talk to you.
But you are a very active member, though. Yeah. And I kind of envy the members of 812 because they get to enjoy the stuff. But there is a lot of crap that the committee has to deal with that, it can put a toll on you over time. And, just thinking about, a life of just all you got to worry about is just getting there on time. That's something, that's a good thing right there. And I think what keeps us going is knowing that we are supplying that for the people of Evansville is what makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's cool. I've certainly enjoyed it. In my year since finding out about it, I've actually had something to do car-related. Since otherwise I wouldn't have known anyone down here that was into cars to hang out with and do stuff with.
Yeah.
So I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think a lot of people, kind of as they show up to meets, start talking to people, kind of figure out who drives what and what they're about. It's like kind of all falls into that same thing. You get people you never noticed before, all kind of tell them to be your friends.
You know, some people say I'm not good with names, but I am with faces, or people who say I'm not good with faces, but I am with names. I think I'm starting to discover that I'm not good with either of them, but I am good with what car they drive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I can pick out cars that I saw 3 months ago. It's like, oh, they're back.
Yeah. Or it's like, I pull up and you know, my Mustang is... There are a lot of red Mustangs. It's common. Mustang's a common car. Red's a common color for that car.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, mine kind of stands out with the black wheels, and I have that white American Muscle banner on the top front windshield. That's how people know it's me. And when I get out that car, you know, every now and then, you're the one who drives this? And it's like, oh, yeah. And then, you know, I get talking about the car, and, you know, it's...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's good. It just breeds community, you know, fond-heartedness, whatever, how you want everyone to describe it, you know. It's a good setup.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more people that join, the more people kind of get involved with it, and they'll come to that same conclusion. That's a lot of fun to be around. And it's going up and more stuff coming in the pipeline.
Mm-hmm. And I hope that in the future, you know, people come out and, you know, they see that, hey, this is we can have fun and not have to look over our shoulder. Because I don't know how anybody else feels, but back before 812, when I go to a car meet on just some store's parking lot, there was always that kind of anxiety, you know, that kept in the back of your head, like, what if the police pull in and I'm the one they pick out? You know, but with 812, you don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
You're safe with us. So that parking incident like what happened in the parking garage, never going to happen again. Because we're not going to go into any property unless we have the permission to do it. I think that 812 will be here to stay. I think it'll be here for your generations to come. Even after you, me, Kaylin, everybody's moved on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, you know, the younger generations that we've inspired will take over, and they'll move from there, and hopefully it will get better than what we ever thought it'd be.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up, and it's a great goal to finish it up on. You know, just onwards and upwards. So, but yeah, so that's kind of the story up to now on the 812 Street Crew, and kind of where we've come to. And like I think I mentioned at the beginning, I'm not quite sure where this can get posted. I'm sure it'll end up on the group, whether it's as a YouTube link or a sound clip. However, we want to kind of get this out there and generate a little more and start doing this a little more frequently. Just kind of, you know, sitting here telling stories and providing stuff for the people of 812.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But, yeah, stay tuned with us, and promise you won't be disappointed.
We'll try not to disappoint them.
We'll try not to disappoint, but, you know, I think even our skeptics are going to like what's coming in the future.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been great talking with you, Austin, and that's our show.
All right.